Good morning. You're watching VV News and I'm Preeti presenting Breakfast Show this morning. In the next 1 hour, we'll get to know of everything that's making it to the headlines. First, the top stories. Home Minister Amit Shah slams Congress and other opposition parties on the issue of Citizenship Amendment Act, accuses them of misleading people and stoking unrest. BJP hits back at Rahul Gandhi over his remarks on detention centres, calls him a master of lies, releases a video showing Congress's role in introducing the NPR. Multiple rallies scheduled across the country today in support of Citizenship Amendment Act. BJP calls for a mega rally in Mumbai. CAA support events also scheduled in Assam, Goa and Vijayawada. Indian Air Force to decommission its swing-wing air fighter aircraft MiG-27. The ground attack aircraft is known for its significant role during the Kargil conflict and Operation Parakram. University Grants Commission takes steps to enhance quality of higher education. HRD Ministry issues 5 fresh guidelines, says the move is aimed at boosting research and innovation. Intense cold wave conditions continue to grip northern parts of India. Forecasts predict cold day to severe cold day conditions very likely to prevail till Sunday. And in international news, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confident of remaining at the helm of its Likud party. An exit poll predicts his win in the party leadership vote in the run-up to the March national elections. All right, those are the top stories. We'll get to the news in detail. Now, Home Minister Amit Shah has accused the opposition parties of misleading people on the Citizenship Amendment Act. He held the Congress responsible for recent disturbances in Delhi and said that it is time for the people of Delhi to punish the Congress party. 2 days ago, the government announced the decision to update the NPR, while it has also been clarified by the government that there is no connection between the NRC and the NPR. Certain parties like Congress are attempting to connect the two.
As the debate for and against the CAA continues, demonstrations in favor of the Citizenship Amendment Act are now on the rise. Participants say that there is nothing wrong in the provisions of the Act and misconceptions were being deliberately spread about it.
नागरिकता संशोधन विधेयक कोई पहली बार हिंदुस्तान में नहीं आया है। आजादी के बाद अब तक 5 संशोधन हो चुके हैं, लेकिन जो लोग इसको मुद्दा बनाकर मुसलमानों को परगलाना चाहते हैं, पिछड़ों को परगलाना चाहते हैं, दलितों को परगलाना चाहते हैं और उनको कहना चाहते हैं, उनके साथ राजनीतिक रोटी सेक रहे हैं।
Home Minister Amit Shah accused the opposition of spreading falsehoods about the CAA and misleading the public, especially in the national capital, in an attempt to disturb the peace.
विपक्षों ने कांग्रेस के नेतृत्व में एक भ्रांति खड़ी की। सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट बिल पर संसद के अंदर चर्चा हुई, सब जगह चर्चा हुई, कोई कुछ बोलने को तैयार नहीं, इधर उधर की बातें करते थे। बाहर निकलकर इसमें भ्रम फैलाना चालू किया और दिल्ली को अशांत किया। मैं कहना चाहता हूं, एक कांग्रेस पार्टी, इसके नेतृत्व में टुकड़े टुकड़े गैंग जो दिल्ली के अशांति के लिए जिम्मेदार है, इसको दंड देने का समय आ गया है।
And even as politics continues over the CAA, the NRC and NPR are now equally dominating the conversation. 2 days ago, the government announced the decision to update the NPR, while it has been clarified by the government that there is no connection between the NRC and the NPR. Certain parties like the Congress are attempting to connect the two. Vehemently denying this, the government and the BJP pointed out that P. Chidambaram, who had himself begun the NPR as Home Minister, was now raising questions about it.
ये लोग शुद्ध रूप से सांप सीढ़ी का खेल खेल रहे हैं। पहले सिटीजनशिप बिल पे सवाल खड़ा किया, एक्ट पे सवाल खड़ा किया, फिर एनआरसी पे जो है वो फेक एंड फैब्रिकेटेड कहानी शुरू कर दी, और अब जो जनगणना है एनपीआर के संबंध में सवाल खड़े करने की कोशिश हो रही है। सरकार का स्पष्ट मत है, जोर जोर से शोर मचा करके हम बार बार कह चुके कि भारत के किसी भी नागरिक की नागरिकता के पर कोई सवाल नहीं पैदा होता।
कांग्रेस पार्टी ने देश को गुमराह किया है। हम जो एनपीआर लेकर आए हैं वो सिर्फ नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर है, इसका कोई दूर दूर का संबंध भी एनआरसी से नहीं है।
A video has surfaced exposing the Congress stand on the issue. Ajay Maken can be seen slamming the government and the NPR. P. Chidambaram is also voicing support in 2012 for detention centers. He was the Union Home Minister then.
We also did the NPR in 2011, but we never took it forward to the NRC. But as soon as you link this NPR to NRC, this is something which should be objected to, because the Congress never brought it forward to the extent of linking NPR to the NRC.
The NPR process is for the purpose of issuing the resident card, which eventually will lead to a citizenship card later.
They have been saying that NPR is the first step towards creation of NRIC. So to whom they are fooling now?
More videos showing Chidambaram actually saying that both NPR and NRC are important for the country have surfaced.
Once he goes voluntarily, okay, to Aadhaar he goes voluntarily. To the NPR camp, he would have to attend the first or the second camp mandatorily. And this is not a big issue. In a village, people gather many times in a year for a temple festival, for a death, for a marriage. NPR will issue what the President promised in the address, a resident identity card. It will have the Aadhaar number.
The BJP says that it was the UPA that had linked the NPR with citizenship, adding that previous BJP governments in fact had delinked the two. In the midst of all these allegations and counter-allegations, several voices in support of the NRC are emerging. The UP Shia Central Waqf Board has backed the government's stand that NRC is not a threat to Indian Muslims and is in fact necessary for the country. Board Chairman Wasim Rizvi has alleged that the Congress has aided the making of false ID cards for illegal immigrants and infiltrators. Meanwhile, in the midst of all this, the BJP is going full steam ahead with its campaign to bust myths related to NRC, NPR and CAA. The party's Jan Jagran committee, headed by JP Nadda, held a meeting to formulate strategies to achieve this.
किसान हिंदुस्तान के गांवों में रहते हैं, एनआरसी के आने से और गांव में जो इस तरह की अराजकता फैलाने की कोशिश की जा रही है, तो वो भी कहीं न कहीं उनको राष्ट्रीय भावना उससे जागृत हो रही है और राष्ट्रीयता के सवाल पर किसान हमेशा तैयार रहता है। इसलिए इस संवाद को करना किसान मोर्चा ने जरूरी समझा है।
All in all, while the government is clarifying its stand on various issues to reassure the people, there are various opposition leaders who are continuously trying to disrupt the peace by spreading false rumors. From Delhi with Shailendra Mishra, DD India.
And multiple rallies are scheduled across the country in support of the Citizenship Amendment Act. Bharatiya Janata Party has called for a mega rally in Mumbai today. A peace rally by BJP in support of the CAA will also take place at Jagi Road in Assam. Assam Chief Minister Sarbanand Sonowal is likely to address the peace rally. BJP will also take out procession in support of CAA in Puducherry. In another event, Union Railways Minister Piyush Goyal will address a press conference in Goa. A program to spread awareness for Citizenship Amendment Act has also been organized in Vijayawada. Union Minister Suresh Prabhu will address the awareness program. A press conference by HRD Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal will also take place in Madhya Pradesh in support of CAA. Stepping up the offensive on Congress party, BJP on Thursday has demanded an apology from Rahul Gandhi for levelling false charges against the NDA government on the issue of detention centres. The BJP released documents to counter Congress's campaign on the issue. Briefing reporters in New Delhi, party spokesperson Samit Patra said that it is Congress which had opened 3 detention centres in Assam.
कांग्रेस और अर्बन नक्सलियों द्वारा उड़ाई गई डिटेंशन सेंटर की अफवाहें सरासर झूठ है, बद इरादे वाली है, देश को तबाह करने के नापाक इरादों से भरी पड़ी है। ये झूठ है, झूठ है, झूठ है।
इस देश में ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई भी नागरिक दुनिया में से कोई भी आदमी घुस कर रह सकता है। इस देश का एक कानून है। अगर एक नागरिक पकड़ा जाता है, इसको वहां जाने की परमिशन नहीं है। यहाँ रहने की परमिशन नहीं है, वीजा नहीं है, पासपोर्ट नहीं है, तो उसको पकड़कर डिटेंशन सेंटर में रखा जाता है। बाद में इसको वापस भेजने की प्रक्रिया होती है, डिपोर्ट की प्रक्रिया होती है। ये डिटेंशन सेंटर और एनआरसी का कोई लेन देन नहीं है।
The Prime Minister as well as the Home Minister of India have both cleared the air and set the record straight on the status of detention centers in India. Both have asserted that the setting up of detention centers in the country has no link whatsoever with NRC or the National Register of Citizens. But the opposition continues to sing a different tune. The BJP has charged the Congress and its leaders of continuously spreading falsehoods on detention centers. The ruling party at the centre has launched a fresh tirade at the Congress, accusing it of deliberately trying to mislead people on the issue. Addressing a press conference, BJP spokesperson Samit Patra presented documents establishing that detention centres were set up by the erstwhile Tarun Gogoi-led Assam government in Assam on the directions of the Manmohan Singh-led UPA government at the centre. BJP has accused Rahul Gandhi of spreading lies on the issue and has demanded an apology from him for the same.
भारत माता को झूठ बोलता है। मुझे लगता है राहुल गांधी जी से भद्रता की अपेक्षा करना, राहुल गांधी जी से अच्छाई की अपेक्षा करना, अच्छे भाषा की अपेक्षा करना, ये बहुत ज्यादा एक्सपेक्ट करना है, ये बहुत ज्यादा अपेक्षा करना है। झूठों के सरदार से मैं पूछना चाहता हूं, क्या आज आप फिर से हाथ जोड़ के माफी मांगेंगे देश से? मिस्टर राहुल गांधी's dictum is know nothing, speak everything. जानना कुछ नहीं है, बोलना सब कुछ है।
At the press conference, BJP brought up a white paper issued by the then Assam government on 20th October 2012. It said that, as per the white paper, the centre had directed the Assam government to set up detention centres. The party further stated that on 13 December 2011, the centre had issued a press release stating that 3 detention centres were opened in Assam, where 362 illegal immigrants or declared foreigners were detained. BJP underlined that Congress government was in power in Assam in 2011.
राहुल गांधी जी, आपके माताश्री की अध्यक्षता में कांग्रेस की सरकार थी। मनमोहन जी केंद्र में प्रधानमंत्री थे और गोगोई साहब असम में मुख्यमंत्री थे। और ये प्रेस रिलीज क्या कहता है? 362 illegal migrants sent to detention camps in Assam. The government of Assam has set up 3 detention camps at Golpara, Kokrajhar and Silchar.
The Congress, however, is questioning the intent of the NDA government at the centre on the issue of detention centres.
क्या राहुल जी ने ये कहा कि हमने नहीं बनाया और तुम बना रहे हो? एक तो झूठ बोलो, ऊपर से जो है उसका जवाब देने की जगह हमसे प्रश्न पूछो, ये तो कमाल की बात है।
Detention centres have been there in India for decades. They house illegal immigrants or declared foreigners till the time their identity is verified for deportation. The centre is emphasizing that there is no link between these detention centres and NRC and that no detention centre has been set up by the NDA government under NRC, contrary to what is being claimed by the Congress. With Shalendra Mishra, DD India.
Till Thursday evening, 327 FIRs had been registered in connection with violence and arson in Uttar Pradesh. Out of the 288 police personnel injured, 61 were shot at. 69 live cartridges and 35 illegal country-made pistols have been recovered. A special investigation team headed by a senior police officer will probe all incidents. In the shadow of violent protests against Citizenship Amendment Act, Uttar Pradesh government continues to remain on alert to ensure that law and order is maintained across the state. The district administration of Gorakhpur conducted a flag march on Thursday. In view of security reasons, internet services have temporarily affected in 14 districts of Uttar Pradesh, including Lucknow. In Agra also, the services will remain suspended till 6 p.m. today. And meanwhile, process of confiscating properties of those involved in damaging public assets during the protest gained momentum, with 372 persons being served notices in different districts of Uttar Pradesh. As a precautionary measure, internet services that were resumed after nearly a week were again temporarily suspended in several places to prevent rumour mongering.
आठ जिलों में इंटरनेट सेवाएं स्थगित की गई हैं एक दिन के लिए और इसके बाद सोशल मीडिया का गतिविधियों पर निरंतर वॉच रखा जा रहा है और जहाँ जहाँ पर ऐसे भड़काऊ टाइप के पोस्ट हैं जिससे शांति व्यवस्था भंग होने की स्थिति समझ में आ रहा है या कुछ ऐसे पोस्ट जो आपराधिक कृत्य के श्रेणी में आते हैं उनके विरुद्ध कार्रवाई की गई है। 74 ऐसे मामले हैं जिसमें कार्रवाई की गई है।
A biting cold wave persisted in northern India as mercury continued its downward trend. Now, according to Met Department, national capital is likely to record its second coldest December since 1901 as temperatures are predicted to drop further. The minimum temperature in Delhi was recorded this morning at 5 degrees Celsius, while the maximum was 14 degrees Celsius, several notches above normal. A severe cold day with moderate fog is predicted, while mercury is predicted to drop to 4 degrees Celsius during the weekend. Severe cold conditions with ground frost and dense fog threw normal life out of gear in parts of Rajasthan, including Churu, Sikar and Jhunjhunu districts and also nearby areas. Fatehpur town in Rajasthan Sikar district recorded the season's lowest night temperature at -3 degrees Celsius on Thursday. The Dras belt of Kargil district was the coldest place in the twin union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, recording a minimum temperature of -30.2 degrees Celsius. The cold wave intensified in Punjab and Haryana as the minimum and maximum temperatures further plummeted in the two states. Narnaul in Haryana was the coldest place with mercury dropping to 2.5 degrees Celsius, while Hisar recorded a minimum of 3.3 degrees Celsius. The shrine of Kedarnath has been covered in a thick layer of snow as Uttarakhand and nearby areas witnessed active blizzards and continuous snowfall. The shrine has been closed since October before the snowfall started. Due to severe snowfall, mercury dipped to -14 degrees Celsius with the entire area from Gaurikund to Kedarnath Dham being covered with snow. Badrinath Dham has also been covered in snow and the thickness is of at least a foot. The areas of Badrinath Dham and Auli in Chamoli district of Uttarakhand received fresh snowfall. All construction work ongoing for Adi Shankaracharya Samadhi and Tirtha Purohit Samaj has been put on hold due to this snowfall. All right, Meghna is joining us to get us more on the weather conditions in the national capital. Meghna, in the visual, I see fog behind you and the national capital is facing biting cold conditions these days. You let us know how is the morning there and also how has the Met Department predicted the weather in the next few days?
Preeti, it's evident that there is a lot of fog, and also when we see that the mercury is dipping day by day and it continues to dip, and the meteorological department has also predicted that mercury will continue to dip till the end of this year, and it is also one of the coldest Decembers in Delhi when we see from 1919, 1929, 1961 and 1997. After that the mean maximum temperature in Delhi has dipped down to less than 20 degrees Celsius. So this is going to be the coldest Delhi after probably 2 decades. So coldest Delhi December. And also when we talk about the Aravalli Mountains, actually the Aravalli Mountains, the environmentalists say that the Aravalli Mountains used to act as a buffer to protect Delhi from the westerly disturbances. But now as we know that Aravalli is also, there are environmental concerns for the Aravalli. So this time around Delhi is also experiencing extreme cold along with the northwesterly winds which are coming from the Himalayas. So the ice cold winds, and along with that we also have the fog. So both of these in combination is actually resulting to this kind of temperature. Doctors have advised people, there are measures that have to be taken. Doctors advise people to wear layers of clothing rather than wearing one thick clothing. They must wear layers of clothing. Avoiding early morning walks is really very important, and avoiding exposure, covering the maximum exposed skin is very important when such kind of temperature is prevalent. It is also important to see that in Delhi especially Safdarjung Observatory has recorded around 12 degrees Celsius of temperature, and also the Palam weather station has also recorded around 11 degrees Celsius. So we can say overall this time around it's one of the coldest Decembers in Delhi, and we are having cold days. Also we are having severe cold days. These all are bifurcated by the number of the degrees of temperature which is below the maximum temperature recorded. So when we have a cold day, it's around 4.5 degrees Celsius less than the maximum temperature, and it's around 6.5 degrees Celsius less than the maximum temperature for a severe cold day. So, and also very important to say that there are several precautionary measures to be taken during this time. People are advised to cover themselves as much as possible, and especially it is a very crucial time for kids, for toddlers, and for senior citizens, and for people who are suffering from diabetes and hypertension to take care of themselves, because they are more prone to get ill during this kind of time. During when there is extreme cold conditions, people suffering from blood pressure are also prone to fall sick at this point of time. So there are precautionary measures to be taken, but this spell and this cold spell would probably continue till the end of December, because there is a dip in temperature which is constantly being observed. So the meteorological department is also saying that this numb temperature probably would continue in Delhi. People are not going to have a respite so soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Meghna, for joining us with that update. So people will not have respite soon, is what our correspondent tells us. As of now, that was it on weather. Up next, we'll get to other news. The MiG-27, which proved to be an ace attacker during 1999 Kargil war, will roar through the skies for one last time today. The Indian Air Force has decided to finally decommission its MiG-27s, with the sole remaining squadron in Rajasthan's Jodhpur flying its last sortie. The swing wing fighter has been the backbone of ground attack fleet of the Air Force for several decades, and the Indian Air Force will give a farewell to its squadron of 7 aircrafts from Jodhpur Air Base. Veteran air warriors along with serving air warriors in large numbers are taking part in the ceremony. Air Marshal S.K. Ghotia, VSM, Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Southwestern Air Command, would be presiding over the wind down ceremony. The upgraded variant of this last swing wing fleet has been the pride of Indian Air Force strike fleet since 2006. Procured in the 1980s from the then Soviet Union, the fighter jet has proved its worth in various operations, including Kargil, and earned rich accolades in numerous international exercises held in India. The fleet also took active part in Operation Parakram. The upgraded version, because of its survivability, have also participated in numerous national and international exercises. Human Resource Development Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank launched the 5 documents developed by University Grants Commission covering the 5 verticals of quality mandate in New Delhi on Thursday. These 5 documents cover evaluation reforms, eco-friendly and sustainable university campuses, human values and professional ethics, faculty induction and academic research integrity. Speaking on the occasion, the HRD minister said to improve the quality of higher education, UGC has adopted the Higher Education Quality Improvement Program mandate. He said the quality mandate aims at evolving higher education system to equip the country's next generation with vital skills, knowledge and ethics for leading a rewarding life. He said that student evaluation plays a crucial role in improving the quality of higher education in the country. He said in order to make student assessment more meaningful, effective and linked to learning outcomes, the report, Evaluation Reforms in Higher Educational Institutions in India, is very timely and beneficial. Chief Election Commissioner Sunil Arora and Election Commissioners reviewed poll preparedness for Delhi Assembly elections at the Election Commission of India headquarters in Delhi on Thursday. DEOs, DCPs, Joint CPs, Chairman NDMC, MCD Commissioner and CEO of Delhi Cantonment Board and nodal officers of the various enforcement agencies attended the meeting. The Commission also held a separate meeting with Chief Secretary and Police Commissioner of Delhi. Speaking to the officers, the Chief Election Commissioner said that Constitution of India has given the mandate to Election Commission of India under Article 324 to conduct free, fair and credible elections. The Chief Election Commissioner also called upon election officials to conduct flawless election in the National Capital Territory of Delhi. During the meeting, a brief presentation was made highlighting the status of preparedness, the status of electoral rolls, manpower availability, EVMs and VVPATs, training of all election officials and sweep activities focusing and targeting low turnout areas for increasing the number of voter turnout was also shared. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana is a flagship scheme run by the central government with the objective to enable youth secure a better livelihood and become financially independent by providing industry-relevant skill training to help them. Here's a ground report coming in from Idukki district of Kerala, where the scheme has been implemented. Let's take a look.
Under the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, skill training is being imparted to those engaged in cultivation and marketing of spices in Idukki district of Kerala. Training has already been provided to more than 2,100 spice farmers by the Spices Board in collaboration with Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Training programs are being organized in various parts of the district by the Indian Cardamom Research Centre in Mailadumpara in Idukki to promote organic cultivation and help take farmers towards prosperity.
Farmers here were not aware about organic cultivation. Through the new scheme introduced by the Prime Minister, cultivators have come to know about the new method.
The recognition of prior learning classes conducted by the Spices Board under Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana for farmers are really very fruitful.
The scheme offers several programs related to spice farming and consists of both theoretical and practical training. Some of the topics covered include making of vermicompost, plant nursery work, and organic cultivation, amongst other useful skills. Pepper and cardamom farmers of the district are really happy with this training, as can be seen by their participation in large numbers. Kaushal Vikas Yojana is surely playing an important role in creating an effective and efficient agriculture workforce through its training schemes in the district. Bureau Report, DD News.
And now it's time for the year roundup, in which today we will share the news which hit the headlines world over in 2019. DD News conducted a poll on social media, and these were the 10 big news selected majorly. Let's take a look.
Over 1,000 people lose their lives in Cyclone Idai in Mozambique, Zimbabwe and Malawi. Around 1.8 million people had been affected after Cyclone Idai hit Mozambique in March 2019. The UN humanitarian agency OCHA said that out of the 1.8 million people in Mozambique who had been affected by the Cyclone Idai, some of them were left in a critical, life-threatening situation. UN spokesperson also said that Cyclone Idai shaped up to be the worst weather-related disaster on record in the southern hemisphere. Thousands of people even died across Mozambique, Zimbabwe and Malawi due to a serious outbreak of waterborne diseases like cholera and typhoid. The ICRC has also tripled its emergency appeal target from $10 to $30 million. Special Pakistan Court announces death penalty to former President Parvez Musharraf. On 17th December 2019, a Special Pakistan Court sentenced the former military dictator General Parvez Musharraf to death in a high treason case. The court had, on the 19th of November, concluded the trial proceedings in the case against Musharraf for suspending the constitution and imposing emergency on the 3rd of November 2007. Musharraf was booked in the high treason case in December 2013 and indicted on the 31st of March 2014. Courtesy to litigation at appellate forums, the trial was delayed and the former army chief was allowed by the courts as well as the Interior Ministry to leave Pakistan in March of 2016 on medical grounds. Abhijit Banerjee and wife Esther Duflo become the first couple to win the Economics Nobel. The Indian-born Abhijit Banerjee and his wife Esther Duflo, a French-American, won the 2019 Nobel Prize in Economics along with the economist Michael Kremer for their experimental approach to alleviating global poverty. While Kremer is with Harvard University, both Duflo and Abhijit Banerjee teach at MIT. They are the first couple to win the Economics Nobel and the sixth Nobel-winning couple. Esther Duflo is the second woman to be awarded a Nobel in economics. The couple decided to begin their work on the world's poorest and how markets and institutions work for them. Over the years, helped by field studies using randomized trials in India and Africa, they try to make sense of what the poor are able to achieve and where and for what reason they require a nudge. Conservative Party leader Boris Johnson wins a sweeping victory in the UK elections. The UK general elections was billed as one of the most unpredictable elections in decades, as the Conservative Party leader Boris Johnson won a sweeping victory. With 63.7% of the voter turnout, it was a thumping defeat for the main opposition leader, Jeremy Corbyn, thus handing Johnson a clear mandate to get Brexit done. Boris Johnson had called the UK's third general election since 2015 in an effort to increase his parliamentary majority and end months of deadlock over Brexit. After getting Brexit done on the 31st of January, Johnson will work to renegotiate a new deal with the EU, keeping trade and migration among the top issues. Johnson has vowed to end freedom of movement between EU and UK and implement a new points-based immigration system. His government will also negotiate free trade agreements with other trading partners around the world. Millions across the world joined climate change protests. From handfuls of demonstrations on Pacific Islands to mass rallies in Melbourne, Berlin and New York, millions of people inspired by climate activist Greta Thunberg held global climate strikes in the year 2019. In Australia, 350,000 people came together to join protests across the country, which is suffering from soaring temperatures and warming seas. As protests took place in 500 towns and cities across Germany, the government announced a $60 billion package to cut greenhouse gases. At the UN Climate Conference in September, Greta Thunberg accused politicians of relying on young people for answers to climate change. Since then, she has become a strong voice for action on climate change and has been named Time Magazine's Person of the Year for 2019. Impeachment process against US President Donald Trump underway. It was in September 2019 that a formal complaint from a whistleblower led to the beginning of an impeachment process against the US President Donald Trump. The process centers on whether or not he improperly sought help from Ukraine to boost his chances of re-election in 2020. President Trump is accused of pressuring Ukraine to dig up damaging information against Joe Biden, who is one of his main Democratic challengers for the presidency in 2020. Formal impeachment charges of abuse of power and obstruction were approved by the Democratic Party-controlled House Judiciary Committee on the 13th of December. If the full House approves the charges against the US President, then he will be sent for trial to the Senate within weeks. Bomb blasts rock Sri Lanka, over 200 killed. More than 200 people were killed and at least 450 injured in bomb blasts that ripped through churches and luxury hotels in Sri Lanka on Easter Sunday, the first major attack on the Indian Ocean island since the end of the civil war 10 years ago. Government declared a curfew in Colombo and blocked access to social media and messaging sites, including Facebook and WhatsApp. The then Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena claimed that international drug syndicates orchestrated the country's deadly Easter Sunday bombings, despite earlier blaming the attacks on Islamists. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced a $50 million line of credit for Sri Lanka to fight terrorism as the newly elected Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa made his first state visit after winning the election. International Court of Justice directs Pakistan to ensure consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav. On the 17th of July 2019, it was a major diplomatic victory for India in the retired naval officer Kulbhushan Jadhav's case. Jadhav was awarded the death sentence in 2017 by a Pakistani military court on charges of espionage. The ICJ stayed the execution of the sentence passed to Kulbhushan Jadhav. India had challenged the Pakistani military court's verdict, citing violation of the Vienna Convention on consular access and process of resolution. The ICJ rejected Pakistan's objections and suspended the death sentence awarded to Kulbhushan Jadhav by the Pakistani military court. The ICJ also ruled that Pakistan will have to review the entire process of the trial and conviction of Kulbhushan Jadhav and will ensure that Jadhav is not executed pending the final decision. The ICJ also noted that Pakistan breached Vienna Convention on consular relations, and so Pakistan has to provide consular access to Jadhav. Extradition bill triggers prolonged anti-government protests in Hong Kong. China's Special Administrative Region Hong Kong saw anti-government protests since June 2019, and the situation shows no sign of dying down. The extradition bill, which triggered protests, was introduced in April and made hundreds of thousands of people go to the streets. The bill would have allowed for criminal suspects to be extradited to mainland China under certain circumstances. Opponents said this risked exposing Hong Kongers to unfair trials and violent treatment. After weeks of protests, the chief executive, Carrie Lam, withdrew the bill in September, but demonstrations continue, and now the demand is for a full democracy and an inquiry into police actions. Clashes between police and activists have become increasingly violent, with police firing live bullets and protesters attacking officers and throwing petrol bombs. Major diplomatic victory for India. UN designates Masood Azhar as a global terrorist. In a huge diplomatic win for India, the United Nations designated Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar as a global terrorist on the 1st of May 2019 after finding him associated with Al-Qaeda and terror financing. The development happened after China lifted its hold on a proposal to blacklist him. In 2009 and in 2016, again, India moved the proposal with P3, the US, UK and France in the UN's 1267 Sanctions Committee to ban Azhar, who was the mastermind of the Pathankot attack in January of 2016. In 2017, the P3 nations moved a similar proposal again. However, on all these occasions, China, a veto-wielding permanent member of the Security Council, blocked India's proposal from being adopted by the Sanctions Committee. After being designated as a global terrorist, Azhar is now subject to assets freeze, travel ban and an arms embargo.
And international news, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has won a landslide victory in a primary election for leadership of the ruling Likud party. Official results showed Netanyahu capturing 72% of the votes as compared with 28% for challenger Gideon Sa'ar. Netanyahu will now remain Prime Minister until new elections in March. About 49% of Likud's 1,16,000 eligible members voted to choose their leader. China's defense ministry has said that the military relationship between India and China is improving due to the efforts of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping. Addressing media in Beijing on Thursday, defense spokesperson said that the two countries maintain strategic dialogues and conduct practical cooperation and have also strengthened their exchanges along their borders. As the year 2020 marks the 70th anniversary of the diplomatic ties between China and India, the two militaries have planned to conduct various exchanges and celebration activities together. India is willing to work with the Indian side, rather China is willing to work with the Indian side to follow the guidance of Prime Minister Modi and President Xi for development of military-to-military relationship along the right track and also make more contributions towards the growth of bilateral relations. US President Donald Trump on Thursday called for governments in Moscow, Damascus and Tehran to stop the bloodshed that has displaced thousands in rebel-held provinces of Idlib in Syria. He warned all the three nations to stop airstrikes which had killed hundreds of innocents so far. Heightened regime and Russian bombardment has hit Syria's last major opposition bastion since mid-December. Despite a ceasefire announced by the United Nations in August, bombardment has continued, killing hundreds of civilians and fighters. The latest spike in violence came after Russia and China vetoed a UN Security Council resolution which would have extended for a year cross-border aid deliveries to 4 million Syrians. The move raised fears that vital UN-funded assistance could stop entering the opposition-held parts of Syria from January unless an alternative agreement is reached. Also, US President Trump proceeds to with his plan to designate Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, despite pushback from numerous top aides and cabinet members. Aides and advisors were concerned that the plan could damage diplomatic ties between US and Mexico and potentially jeopardize Mexico's cooperation to halt illegal immigration and drug trafficking across the border. Some advisors also warned such a move would complicate the Trump administration's efforts to reduce refugee admissions, as those fleeing cartel violence would now be able to say that they were escaping terrorism. However, the Mexican government has argued that equating drug cartels with Islamic State and Al-Qaeda could open the door to US military intervention. Mexican President Obrador said that the Mexican Constitution would not allow such interference. And China, Russia and Iran will conduct joint naval exercises in the Gulf of Oman today. This will be the first such naval exercise of the three countries in the Middle East, set to take place from December 27th till 30th of December. The military exercises aim to deepen exchange and cooperation between the navies of the three countries and to show that the countries have the ability to maintain world peace and security. China had already deployed its missile destroyer for its array of anti-ship and land attack cruise missiles in the drills. The Gulf of Oman borders Iran and Pakistan in the north, Oman in the south, United Arab Emirates in the west, and the coast of Gujarat faces it. And more than 245 homes have been destroyed after forest fires swept through a residential area in the Chilean port city of Valparaiso on the Christmas Eve. Now, hundreds of firefighters struggled to control the fast-moving blaze, which continued into Christmas Day and was made worse by dry weather and strong winds. Military units and helicopters were deployed to help battle the flames, and residents were evacuated to shelters. Fire broke out in a forested area on the outskirts of the city and spread towards the coast, hitting the Rockwind and Sandrock Hills. Time now to get you updates from the world of business. Ajay is joining us with Finance World.
Thanks, Preeti. Good morning and welcome all to Finance World. Let's start with some good news from Mumbai. The home sales in Mumbai, India's financial capital, jumped to highest in 4 years as property developers switched focus to build cheaper apartments, according to Enrock Property Consultants. Sales in Mumbai rose 22% in 2019, even though a persistent credit crunch and economic slowdown curtailed recovery in India's housing sales across top 7 cities. Mumbai metropolitan region and Pune saw highest growth in residential sales in current year, while sales declined in Bengaluru, Hyderabad and Kolkata. Affordable housing continued its growth momentum in 2019, with overall new supply rising by 22% in year 2019. Unsold housing inventory also declined 4% to 6,48,000 units. Average residential property prices across the top cities increased by 1% in 2019, except Kolkata and National Capital Region, where prices remain stagnant. The benchmark indices, Sensex and Nifty, ended on a negative note yesterday amid selling in the banking and capital goods stocks. Markets traded in the red for most part of the day ahead of the expiry of December futures and options contract. While Sensex fell 297 points to 41,163, Nifty lost 88 points to 12,126. Bharti Airtel lost 2.23%. Reliance Industries was down 1.94% and L&T 1.72% were the top Sensex gainer. Out of 30 Sensex stocks, 20 ended in the red. Top Sensex gainers were ONGC 1.63%, NTPC 1.09% and Tata Steel 1.06%. On Nifty, 36 stocks ended lower against 14 closing higher. And Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, in 2 orders passed on Friday evening, found credit ratings agency or CRA lapsing and lacking in conduct when they rated the non-convertible debentures or NCDs of infrastructure leasing and financial services IL and FS. In rare instances, the regulator levied a penalty of 25 lakh rupees on 3 rating agencies, ICRA, India Ratings and Research and Care Ratings Limited, for not exercising due diligence and lapsing on their duties to investors by not taking timely rating actions. That's all in the Finance World. Thanks for watching.
All right, thank you, Ajay, for joining in. And up next, we'll get you what all has been printed in the papers here in Delhi. The first paper we picked this morning is the Hindustan Times. Now, the Hindustan Times, the lead story, it says Election Commission set wheels in motion for Delhi polls in New Year. The election likely after Republic Day arrangements end, and the Election Commission of India, as we told you, held a series of meetings yesterday, and the announcement for the elections is to be made between January 7th and 12th, and the elections may be held between February 7th and 14th, and as we speak, the term of the present assembly, the Aam Aadmi Party government, it ends on February 20th, 2020, that is next year. The next paper we pick is the Economic Times. Now, the pink paper talks of how efforts are on to make it easier to start up and to do business, aiming for a smoother ride is what the paper headlines it. Changes on the cards for faster incorporation, reducing time spent on tax compliance. And as we tell you, startups have sought faster processing of TDS and GST refunds besides tax on ESOPs only at the time of sales. And the next paper we pick is the Statesman. The Statesman bottom anchor story talks of how Tamil Nadu is topping the Good Governance Index. Maharashtra and Karnataka are on the second and the third slot. Now, Chhattisgarh is at the 4th position, followed by Andhra Pradesh at 5th and Gujarat at 6th, Haryana 7th and Kerala at the 8th rank. With that, I'll pick up the Tribune. The Tribune carries the picture of the day. It says Valley is back in the game. It carries the picture of Real Kashmir Football Club players shaking hands with fans after beating Chennai City Football Club 2-1 during an I-League match, which was the first which was organized after the clampdown in Srinagar on Thursday. So that's it in Delhi Papers Press Review. Up next, we'll let you know what were the events which made this day special in history.
It was on this day in 1797, Mirza Asadullah Bey Khan, commonly known as Mirza Ghalib, was born in Agra. His honorific was Tabir-ul-Mulk Najm-ud-Dawla. His Persian Diwan is at least 5 times longer than his Urdu, but his fame rests on his poetry in Urdu. On this day in 1911, Jana Gana Mana, the national anthem of India, was first sung in the Calcutta session of the Indian National Congress. It was on this day in 1831, British naturalist Charles Darwin set out on a voyage to the Pacific Ocean aboard the HMS Beagle. Darwin's discoveries during the nearly 5-year journey helped form the basis of his theories on evolution. On this day in 1945, the World Bank Group came into formal existence following international ratification of the Bretton Woods Agreements, which emerged from the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference. It was on this day in 2007, former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto was assassinated in a shooting incident in Rawalpindi.
And up next, we'll take a look at the events which are listed for later part of the day today.
President Ramnath Kovind, who is in Secunderabad of Telangana for his annual southern sojourn, to host a reception for senior dignitaries of the state, ministers, officials, leading citizens and academics at the Rashtrapati Nilayam. Vice President Venkaiah Naidu to dedicate Bolangir LPG bottling plant to the nation in Odisha. It will be the second bottling plant of Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, a public sector undertaking under the Union Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas after Khurda. IAF's fighter aircraft MiG-27, which proved to be an ace attacker during the 1999 Kargil War and earned the nickname of Bahadur from pilots, scheduled to be decommissioned in Jodhpur. The FTII administration scheduled to convene a special governing council meeting in New Delhi to discuss the hike in tuition fee and registration fee for the joint entrance test. The first phase of rural local bodies election in Tamil Nadu scheduled to be held. The election will be held in 2 phases to elect 1.06 lakh ward members and 12,524 panchayat presidents in rural local bodies.
And the all-round progress of the nation includes development of those segments of the society which till now could not access the means of moving themselves forward. But sometimes instances emerge that give hope that through sheer will, determination and community participation, goals of development can be attained. A fresh breeze of change has swept across the tribal areas of Karnataka's Chamarajanagar district through organic farming. Now 60 tribal families have taken up organic farming, enabling them to join the mainstream of development.
Anything can be achieved if one wants it bad enough. Tale of a tribal woman farmer Dasi in Karnataka's Chamarajanagar district inspires such hope and confidence. The area is tribal dominated and most communities settled here dependent on the forest for their livelihood, collecting honey and other eatables as well as materials growing naturally in the wild. Their lives have been miles away from trappings and comforts of modern living, but 2007 saw the beginning of the effort to connect these communities with the mainstream of society by the state government through rehabilitation. Dasi's life has also changed for the better as part of this endeavour. She has stepped out of the forest and stays in a Pakka home now. The government also made land available to her family for cultivation, and now she grows fruits, vegetables and spices. What stands out is that Dasi uses modern techniques and equipments to carry out organic farming. She does not use any chemical fertilizers or pesticides. She has also started growing cotton, which is turning out to be quite profitable. With the help of Wildlife Conservation Society, Dasi and her family members learned the methods and techniques associated with organic farming, and now she uses her land to grow tur and other pulses, chilies, tomatoes, bananas, several vegetables and much more.
पहले जब हम आदिवासी जीवन व्यतीत कर रहे थे तो कोई खास आमदनी नहीं थी, लेकिन जब सरकार के बढ़ावा देने पर हमने जैविक खेती का रुख किया, तब से हमें अच्छी आमदनी हो रही है और हमारे जीवन में बड़ा बदलाव आया है। मैंने अपने साथ साथ गांव की कई महिलाओं को इस खेती के गुण सिखाए हैं और उन्होंने जैविक खेती की शुरुआत की है, जिससे वे आत्मनिर्भर बनी हैं। इतना ही नहीं, सरकार ने भी मेरी इस पहल को सराहते हुए मुझे कई बार सम्मानित किया है। मुझे लगता है जैविक खेती आपको नई पहचान दे सकती है।
60 families of the Jenu Kuruba tribe, which exited the forests to settle down in villages a little over a decade ago, are now living far better, economically secure lives. Now these families have ration card, Aadhaar card and other important official documents which are allowing them to derive benefit of various government schemes. Dasi has even earned several accolades for her adoption of organic farming in an exemplary manner. Clearly, these tribal families have proved that by using the might of community and adopting to modern ways of living can make any goal achievable and completely transform lives. Bureau Report, DD News.
Time now to get to weather. Alright, that's it in this traditional breakfast show this morning. But before we go, we'll leave you with glimpses of breathtaking sea of clouds and mist which was formed in southwest China. The spectacular view attracted visitors with an enthralling scenery. Take a look. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye.